Story 1. The Icebound Hotel. In the early 1900s, the Winteridge Hotel was one of the most luxurious destinations in the Rockies. Built on the edge of a frozen lake, it was famous for its stunning views and isolation from the chaos of the world. But in 1922, during a particularly brutal winter, the hotel closed its doors permanently after a series of unexplained disappearances. Now, the once grand building sat in ruin, surrounded by snowdrifts and towering pines. It had become a local legend, with tales of ghostly sightings and strange sounds drawing thrill-seekers from nearby towns. Liz, David, and their friends Jessica and Mark were among those thrill-seekers. Liz had a passion for urban exploration, and when she stumbled across an old newspaper article about Winteridge, she immediately suggested it to the group. "You've got to be kidding me," Mark said, scrolling through the article on his phone. "A haunted hotel in the middle of nowhere? This is how every horror movie starts." "That's the point," Liz grinned. "Come on, it'll be fun. Besides, it's just an old building. What's the worst that could happen?" The group set out on a Friday morning, armed with flashlights, cameras, and enough snacks to last the weekend. The plan was to drive as far as possible, then hike the rest of the way to the abandoned hotel. By the time they reached the edge of the forest, snow was already falling. It was light at first, but as they trekked deeper into the woods, the flakes grew larger and the wind began to howl. After hours of hiking, the trees opened up to reveal the hotel. It was massive, its once white facade now weathered in gray. Broken windows dotted the upper floors, and icicles hung from the roof like jagged teeth. The lake behind it was a sheet of unbroken ice, reflecting the darkening sky. "This is it," Liz said, her voice filled with excitement. David wasn't as enthusiastic. "It's a little creepier than I imagined." The group pushed open the heavy front doors, which creaked loudly in protest. Inside, the air was cold and damp, carrying the faint scent of mildew. The grand lobby still bore traces of its former elegance. A massive chandelier hung precariously from the ceiling, and the remains of a once plush red carpet stretched toward a grand staircase. They spent the first hour exploring. Liz and Mark ventured into the kitchen and dining hall, while Jessica and David climbed the stairs to check out the guest rooms. Most of the rooms were empty, but some still held decaying furniture and faded photographs. "Check this out," Jessica said, holding up a framed picture of a family standing in front of the hotel. "Think they were guests?" David nodded. "Probably. It's creepy, though. Look at their faces. They all look wrong." Jessica squinted at the photo. The faces were blurry, as if they had been smeared by time, but their eyes seemed to stare directly at her. She quickly set the picture down. By nightfall, the group decided to camp in the lobby. They built a small fire in an old metal bin and huddled around it, the flickering light casting long shadows on the walls. "This place is actually kind of cool," Mark said, munching on a granola bar. "I don't know what everyone's so scared of." As if on cue, a loud thump echoed from somewhere above them. Everyone froze. "Probably just the wind," Liz said quickly. But the sound came again, louder this time. It wasn't the random creak of an old building. It was deliberate, like footsteps. "Who's up there?" Mark shouted, his voice cracking slightly. Silence. Then, from the top of the stairs, came a faint whisper. "Get out!" The group stared at each other, their faces pale. "We're leaving," Jessica said, already packing her bag. Liz hesitated. "Wait, it's probably just..." The whisper came again, louder this time. "Get out!" Before anyone could move, the chandelier above them swayed violently, its rusty chain groaning under the strain. With a deafening crash, it fell, shattering on the floor inches from where they were sitting. That was enough for everyone. Grabbing their gear, they bolted for the door. But when they stepped outside, they found themselves in the middle of a full-blown blizzard. The snow was so thick they could barely see the edge of the porch. "We can't hike back in this," David said. "We'll have to wait it out," Liz admitted reluctantly. They retreated to one of the larger guest rooms, where they barricaded the door with old furniture. The wind howled outside, and the hotel groaned as if alive. Hours passed. No one could sleep. Around 3 a.m., Jessica swore she heard someone humming. "Do you hear that?" she whispered. The others strained their ears. At first, there was only the sound of the storm. But then it came again, a soft, melodic humming like a lullaby. "It's coming from the hall," Mark said. Liz shook her head. "Don't open the door." But Mark didn't listen. Grabbing a flashlight, he moved the barricade and cracked the door open. "What do you see?" Jessica asked nervously. Mark didn't answer. He stepped into the hallway, the beam of his flashlight cutting through the darkness. "Mark, come back," David hissed. Suddenly, the humming stopped. The flashlight clattered to the floor, its light flickering. When they rushed into the hallway, Mark was gone. "Mark!" Liz shouted, her voice echoing down the empty corridor. The only response was laughter, soft, childlike, and eerily close. Panic set in. They ran back to the lobby, but the front doors were frozen shut, encased in a thick layer of ice. The windows wouldn't budge either, and the temperature inside the hotel seemed to be dropping. "We have to stick together," David said firmly. But one by one, they began to disappear. First Jessica, who vanished while searching for another exit. Then David, who was dragged into the shadows by something Liz couldn't see. By dawn, Liz was the only one left. She stumbled through the hotel, her flashlight dying, her breath visible in the freezing air. Finally, she reached the lobby. The fire had long since gone out, and the room was silent. "Please," she whispered, "let me go." For a moment, there was nothing. Then, from the staircase, a figure appeared. It was a man in a tattered bellhop uniform, his face pale and hollow. He pointed to the door. Liz didn't hesitate. She ran, finding the doors unfrozen and the storm suddenly gone. When she reached the edge of the forest, she looked back. The hotel stood silently, its windows dark, but she swore she could see figures watching her from the upper floors. Liz never found her friends, and she never returned to Winterridge. But sometimes, late at night, she dreams of the hotel and the faint sound of humming just outside her door. Thank you for watching this story all the way through. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to give it a like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss any of our upcoming chilling tales. Story 2: The Bridge in the Blizzard. Nestled deep in Montana's Bitterroot Mountains lies an old, forgotten bridge known by locals as the Bridge in the Blizzard. Legends say it was cursed after a tragic accident decades ago when a family's car slid off the icy planks and plunged into the frozen river below. None of them survived, and since then, those who dared to cross it during a storm have reported strange occurrences or vanished altogether. Emily and Zach weren't locals, though. To them, it was just another spot on a list of abandoned places they wanted to explore for their YouTube channel, Urban Shadows. The couple set out early on a January morning. Snow had already begun to fall, but their all-wheel drive SUV handled the winding forest roads easily. Zach drove while Emily scrolled through her notes, reading aloud the story she had found. "Okay, get this," she said. "Witnesses claim they've heard crying near the bridge at night. Others have seen a figure standing on the ice, just staring up at them." Zach smirked. "Classic urban legend stuff. This'll be perfect for the channel." By the time they reached the turnoff, the snowstorm had intensified. Trees lined the narrow road like silent sentinels, their branches sagging under the weight of snow. After another mile, the SUV's headlights illuminated a warped wooden sign barely hanging onto its post. "Bridge ahead. Pass at your own risk." "That's inviting," Zach joked. The bridge appeared moments later, stretching across a wide, frozen river. The planks were covered in snow, but the weathered railings were still visible, adorned with patches of frost. Beyond it, the road vanished into dense, snow-covered woods. As Zach parked, Emily hesitated. "This feels wrong," she said softly. Zach grabbed the camera gear. "It's just a bridge, Em. Let's get some shots and head back." They stepped onto the bridge, their boots crunching through the snow. The wind howled through the beams, creating a ghostly whistle that echoed in the icy air. Zach set up the tripod near the center, while Emily filmed the surroundings. Suddenly, a loud crack echoed from below. Emily froze, gripping Zach's arm. "What was that?" "Probably just the ice shifting," he said, though his voice lacked confidence. Emily aimed her flashlight at the frozen river beneath the bridge. The beam revealed jagged cracks snaking through the ice. And something else. A shadow. "Zach, look!" The shadow moved. Slowly. Purposefully. It was humanoid but wrong. Its limbs too long, its head tilted unnaturally. "It's just a trick of the light," Zach muttered, pulling Emily back. "Let's wrap this up." As they turned, the wind intensified, whipping snow across the bridge. The temperature seemed to plummet. Emily glanced back and gasped. The shadow was now standing on the ice directly beneath them, its head tilted upward as though staring through the planks. The whistle grew louder, almost deafening, but it wasn't the wind anymore. It was a high-pitched, melodic sound that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. "Run!" Emily screamed. They sprinted toward the car, but the snow on the planks had thickened, making every step a struggle. Behind them, the whistle grew sharper, closer. Zach risked a glance back, and froze. The figure was on the bridge now. It didn't walk. It glided, its feet never touching the planks. "Go!" Emily shouted, pulling Zach forward. They reached the car, fumbling with the doors, as the whistle turned into a shrill wail. The moment they slammed the doors shut, silence fell. Breathing heavily, Zach started the engine, but the headlights revealed an empty bridge. "It's gone," Zach whispered. Emily shook her head. "No. Look." In the rearview mirror, the figure